All right, we're back with another episode of Return on Reputation. I'm Justin Obi, founder of Obi Creative, and this show is built on one idea. Your reputation is an asset. And founder-led marketing is the single best growth strategy you've got right now. Every week, I talk to the people who can help you build it. We've got founders who have already done it, PR pros, speaking coaches, and more. Now, today's guest built a website in a recession because he was simply bored, and it ended up being the best business development he ever did. Once people knew he ran VentureFizz, the introductions just came to him. He stopped competing for work entirely. 17 years, 437 podcast episodes, and a LinkedIn account he opened in 2003. He's one of the most connected people in Boston tech today. Today's guest is Keith Cline, founder of VentureFizz. And here's what we get into today. Why almost nothing Keith posts is about Keith, and what 17 years of promoting everybody else has actually returned him. We talk about 23 years on LinkedIn, 20,000 followers, whether he's behind or if the scoreboard is simply wrong. We talk about what version 1 of VentureFizz actually looked like. We talk about 8 years as a side hustle with no evidence it was working and what kept him going anyway. And why job seekers are now researching your company in ChatGPT and what that does to your brand. So without further ado, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Return on Reputation. Keith, big welcome to the show. Thank you for being here on Return on Reputation. This is maybe new for you. You know, you're on the other side of the desk here where you have,
I know.
how
I'm
many?
nervous.
I'm nervous. I'm talking to someone who has well over 400, I think it's 435 at last count,
Yeah, it's in
episodes
that
on their
neighborhood,
own
definitely.
podcast.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a lot. People always like, oh, podcasts, because everybody has a podcast now. No, it's like a 7-8 year podcast journey of,
Yeah.
430 something episodes. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The consistency is what impresses me, and the number, right? So, I mean, are you doing 2 a week?
No, it's one a
Roughly, or
week.
1 a
It's
week? Okay.
yeah, because consistency matters, and that's
Yeah.
where people usually fall off the horse. It's I'm gonna do a podcast and we'll do a season 1 or whatever they phrase it. They'll do 10 episodes and then wow, that was a lot of work, or I don't know what else to talk about or something. So they don't have their lane. I think the reason why the podcast has been a continuous cycle for me where I just never get bored doing it is I've always been fascinated by the founder journey.
Mm.
My dad was an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I used to consume so much of this content, like Jason Calacanis, like,
Yeah,
he's
he's awesome.
massive now, but
Yeah.
I used to listen to him in my car back when you couldn't even I would have to have my iPod with a little attachment on the top to be able to listen to it through my radio because it wasn't even an attachment. And I would download his episodes to my iPod, which was probably like version 2 of the iPod or something like that. And I would just
Yeah.
consume that. I don't know. There was other New York podcasts that I would listen to. There wasn't anything in Boston yet. So I was just consuming so much of this content where I was like, I had someone that was on the VentureFizz team that knew a little bit about podcasting. He did like a Nintendo gaming podcast. And I'm like, I want to start a podcast. He's like, okay, let's do it. So we were like, okay. So we did it.
You just
And
jumped head first.
just jumped head first. I mean, the first season was about going off my background as in recruiting and talent acquisition. So I talked to a lot
Yep.
of talent leaders. I just felt like there was more of a story to be told that I would appreciate of the founder journey and the investor journey. So since then, after those 10 episodes, it was, okay, let's, just focus on more of the founder and investor community.
Mhm. Well, I wanted to kick off because I do a lot of prep and research for every one of our episodes. And the first thing that popped out, I went to your LinkedIn as we all do. And in your headline, I believe it says LinkedIn user number 55,829. And, you
Yeah.
also have your title, co-founder, VentureFizz, and podcaster, but then you put that in there. Why does that number matter to you?
You know what? I think I had my own epiphany this year where I don't really promote myself enough. Like I consider my role as a community builder.
Yeah.
I feel like my superpower is connecting people. And sometimes I'm like, I probably should promote more of me and VentureFizz. So I was just thinking, I'm like, I've been on LinkedIn for 23 years now. I looked it
Yeah.
up before this because I was like, when did I join LinkedIn? I'm like, so it was December 8th of 2003. And,
Yeah.
I had Lee Hauer from Next Few Ventures on my podcast a while ago. and he was part of the early foundational team of LinkedIn. He's in Rhode Island with Next View Ventures now,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
he was with Reid Hoffman building this from scratch. And
Wow.
I think he told me the first 1,000 users were actually just like, I don't know if it was fake users, but then it was like a lot of friends and family. So he's like, you can actually shave some numbers off there. Realized early on, I'm like, because as a recruiter, you find different avenues to find great talent.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
when I learned it first, it was cold calling. I would cold call into Accenture and Deloitte Consulting to find talent to place them in startups.
Mm,
Then the internet happens and Monster becomes a thing.
that's right. I remember. Yeah.
But if you're putting your background on Monster, that means you're looking for a job, and employers could spot that, and you'd probably have some problems talking to your manager that why you on Monster. But all of a sudden, this LinkedIn thing was a social networking tool. It wasn't for jobs. It obviously evolved into a lot of that, and
Yeah.
it's since then has evolved into a lot bigger platform with lots of
It's a
bells and
beast now.
whistles.
Yeah.
It's a beast now. It grows in terms of its importance. So I see this social network for business where I can tap into talent. It was like a no-brainer. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I joined super early and it's been a mainstay. I'm like, wow, 23 years. That's crazy that LinkedIn's been around for that long. And like we're talking about, it just grows in its importance.
Yeah. So you were using it mainly as a recruiter at that point. Because
Correct.
I mean, when it launched, it was like the business social network, right? Like
Right.
kind of more resume. Not many people were posting, I don't think. And I think,
No, there was no, I don't even think there was an opportunity to post. It was just kind of
yeah,
like your shingle of who you are.
if there's anything you got from being that early that someone starting now couldn't get, does that make sense?
I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I think because I'm not trying to just
Yeah.
grow a massive network of 100,000 millions of followers, connections. I
Yeah.
think my LinkedIn connections are super deep and meaningful. It doesn't mean I know every single one of those. I 20,000
Yeah.
you know
20,000.
followers, connections. It's you know, but I think it did help me. Like I just remember, I admire Dave Gerhardt. What he does with he's
The Exit
head of
5.
marketing at different
He's awesome.
companies. He was at Drift, and now
Yeah.
he does Exit 5, and I read a lot of his content. And he, maybe if I doubled, tripled down on LinkedIn early on like he did, I would probably have many more benefits of that first mover advantage, whereas
Hmm.
he did. And when he was I think his story is, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, when he was at Drift, him and David Cancel, the CEO and co-founder, they just reached out to tons and tons and tons of people and got connections, and it
Mm.
blew. And then it continued to, like, his network continues to grow organically based on the presence he has. I don't know how many connections and followers he has, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
So they took that kind of approach where if I did that, I'd probably have 100,000 followers, connections versus 20,000. But
For
yeah,
sure.
no, like the platform evolved. So I don't know if being 2003 makes a world of difference, other than I just I've always found it a super useful tool.
Yeah. Well, I was like, I've never even looked that up. So I figured out how to look it up and you beat me. So I'm 11,263,004. That's my
Okay.
member number.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there's 11 million people that joined in between us. So
Yeah.
super impressed that you joined so early. But then the scope of it, right? LinkedIn has passed 1.3 billion users just this past December. So we're still both of us are in the first 1% of everybody's ever signed up,
Yeah. That's a good
which
point.
is wild.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember at some point the platform became more of a publishing platform, and I think
Mhm.
it kicked off with long form, and then it converted more into just like quick social snippets and posts, more of a Facebook-ish type thing.
Mhm.
So I think it's really interesting how it's evolved, and I think along the way it became a personal branding platform. And I think especially for you as a recruiter, but like there's so much value to be taken away from it. Just and I love how I was looking at your posts. A lot of them, it's not really like you're never standing on a soapbox preaching, telling people how to do things. I feel like you connect a lot of people together and shout other people out in your content. Is that on purpose?
Yeah. Like I consider myself to be a community builder, to be
Yeah.
a supporter of the Boston tech ecosystem, to get the stories out there and make people aware of all the good things happening in the backyard of Boston. Some of my posts, the business model of VentureFizz is companies pay a subscription to have their company page, their jobs on VentureFizz, and we create a lot of custom content of what
Mm-hmm.
it's like to work at those companies. So it's a lot of, videos with the founder or someone working at the company to talk about who they are, what they do, their culture, and what it's like working there. So it's like your company's employment brand told through the lens of the people working there versus what Glassdoor typically is
Mm,
people that are disgruntled and leaving poor reviews because,
that's
the only time
awesome.
someone's going to leave a review is when they're mad
Right.
in that environment. So anyway, so we're like the anti-Glassdoor. So some of the posts you see, it's like my customers, they need to be promoted because it's amazing what they're doing. But, and so many companies in Boston fly under the radar. So that's why I just love the videos that we do and the continuous cycle of content that we produce because we're not the media. I had a couple stints where I experimented with being more of a media company, but it's not, I'm not a journalist. Didn't study
Mm,
journalism. And when I did it, I realized it wasn't authentic to what I was aiming to accomplish with the business.
yeah,
We
that's
need
interesting.
more journalism in Boston, because Matt Crane's doing a fantastic job with MGMT.
Yep.
Um,
Love Matt.
yeah, like he's everywhere, and that's what Boston needs more of that. And like Bostino used to be super. We
Yeah.
were
Greg and
talking
Chase.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like Chase was on the podcast, talking about HQO, but we went deep on the whole Bostino years, and that was another point in time that Boston needed a kick in the butt of what was going on because it's I don't know, like TechCrunch had its prominence, but I don't follow TechCrunch really anymore. Like it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
I don't like,
That's true. It's kind of fallen off. Yeah.
yeah, like it's not like the go-to, and so I think it's more the grassroots sters, the bloggers that are getting the lion's share of meaningful attention.
Yeah.
Of you only have so many hours in the day, so many people you can follow. So like the Matt Crane's doing like amazing work,
Yeah. He is.
and there's more coming with the Mass AI Coalition.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like we were talking about that. And that's funny you mentioned those guys. We produce both their podcasts now, which
Great.
it's a blast to work with those guys. And what we were saying at the top of the show before we pressed record, there's a new vibe in Boston, not to distract from, but there's so much energy now. It's awesome. You must be feeling that with, we talked about earlier, like back in 2000s, 2007, 10, 12 era. And then it's like, I feel like now it's with Whoop and Matt Crane. And I mean, these guys, it's so much energy coming out.
Yeah, this year has been light years of momentum compared to the past
Yeah.
4 years, I would say, because the pandemic, there was a zero interest rate financing thing that happened where companies, COVID happens and people were like, oh no, what do we do? So there
Mm,
was the dip. And then everyone came out swimmingly with lots of funding at great valuations. And then when we came out of it, all of a sudden people realized access to capital when the interest rates changed wasn't going to be the same.
yeah.
So all of a sudden all these tech companies started cutting, 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 cutting. And it was a cycle of cutting that I had never seen since I entered the tech industry in 1998, where it was just continuous. And it still continues
Wow.
today because you've got these middle ground companies that are trying to figure out their strategy. They're not an AI native platform. So hopefully they figure it out and get back on track. But yeah, like start of the new year, it was all of a sudden, there was just momentum of companies scaling, building, growing, AI native. So it's, things like the Mass AI Coalition has
Yeah.
been phenomenal. Like Ryan Durkin is a force. And if there's anyone that can pull off what he's trying to do, it's him.
Yeah.
I've known him for I don't know, 15 years.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Well, Campus Live, I saw him last week and we were reminiscing about Campus Live, his, first company. And, they hired their head of product, their head of marketing through us.
Oh, no
And we
way.
were just, yeah, so we were just talking, reminiscing about the Campus Live days. And, it was just, so I've known him since then, is my point, I guess.
Yeah.
And when he was starting to think about doing this Mass AI Coalition, you know, he reached out and he was just getting some feedback and the companies that maybe he should be thinking about joining. And I was just like, okay, I've seen this before,
Hmm.
But in the past, it was like a state-run effort that people weren't in the weeds of the Boston tech ecosystem. The
Hmm.
difference of what's happening now is Ryan is deep in the weeds. He's been through multiple companies, has had great success, and now he's taking all these amazing connections and access that he has with people. And every mass AI coalition event that I've been to, I was like looking at the room of people and being like, wow, this is what
Really?
needs to happen
Oh, it's
in
great.
Boston. Yeah, I mean, there was a founder event last week that was 150 founders together, all early stage, everyone I had never met. And I was just like, what do you do? What's your company? So it's just like that type of thing.
Yep.
And I could continue to riff on Mass
Yeah.
AI Coalition, but
Yeah. I mean, no, in real life, I mean, all these events are back. I mean, the energy is palpable, and
yeah,
it's awesome to see. I connect with Ryan like a while back, just like probably 2 years ago, and just watching him, like the amount of posts he puts out of like all these events, and so if you're listening to this, go follow Ryan on LinkedIn.
please, yes. Build 617. They're doing a phenomenal
That's
job
right.
too with
Yeah.
their pod. So
Yeah.
Nathan, like
Yep.
it's
Nathan's
just
awesome.
Nick Leonard was on my podcast for Voice Run, but the two of them, the interviews that they're doing, it's just the more storytelling, the better for Boston, because all these stories just fly under the radar, and that's been one of the biggest problems with Boston. It's like being the stories told, being
Yeah.
proud of what we have accomplished and continue to accomplish, and engaging with the students. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's almost as if like Boston has had a brand, like a reputation problem, for a long time, because like other bigger cities took the spotlight, and this is the moment to take it back, maybe.
yeah,
But
yeah, it's like reputation's always been great for Boston. It just they never really shouted from the rooftops.
yeah,
It's a very humble, just kind of like focus on what you're building and then go, to your family and have another life outside of just being a founder. I haven't spent a lot of time in San Francisco, so it's very unfair for me to talk comparisons.
yeah,
But it just seems like if, let's say, hypothetically, you're a product manager at OpenAI or Anthropic, people are like, whoa, you like are the most amazing person in the world. And what do you work like? And I heard it's just a
true.
continuous cycle. People are just constantly talking about startups. There's no like relief, which is good for San Francisco. But in Boston, it's like if you're a product manager, working at one of the great platform companies or something, it's like they fly under the radar. And that's
Yeah,
why I'm like, you know
yeah.
what? We need to do more stuff. So I started a product management community to get those people together and network, and
Oh,
there'll be
cool.
more coming
Yeah,
from that soon too. So,
all under
good.
VentureFizz.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome. I want to go back to why, back to the day, so 2009. You
Mhm.
started VentureFizz as I think a side project
Right.
during the recession back then. So
Correct.
big financial crisis, and at that point you were heavy in a recruiting business that you were running.
Correct.
And so is that so I wanted to verify that story, but then why start VentureFizz at that point? What was like the inspiration, the first version? What would it all look like? Just take us back, because I
Yeah.
think the
So,
founding story is pretty cool.
yeah. So I just started recruiting in 98,
Yeah.
uh, was staffing a lot of the professional services firms that were sprouting up to build web presence for companies like Cyan Viant, IXL, Razorfish.
Oh,
And then we did a lot of the, software companies that were being built, their professional services team, because back then it was like you'd have to implement software behind their firewall. So it was on premise. And then
mm-hmm.
SaaS happens. So, or actually in 4 years, the dot-com bubble burst, 2001. So by 2002, the search firm I was working for didn't want to, continue to work with startups because there really wasn't a lot of business there. But I love doing it. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to like start helping a large Fortune 500 company recruit for their team. So I went off on my own, started this company called Dissero, which is, I think, Latin for to spread the word. And
Oh, cool.
just hung my shingle and started stalking founders and investors in Boston. And I wasn't like an executive recruiter then. I was doing like kind of like basic
Mid-level.
mid management or
Okay.
entry level stuff.
Okay.
But I was went to an event where Larry Bond from General Catalyst was speaking, and I went up to him afterwards and introduced myself, and I was like, had my pitch, and he gave me the great, like really great advice. He's like, hey, listen, you seem really on the ball. Thank you for talking to me, but I'm not your audience because I'm doing board level, C
Mm,
level. I'm on the board. I'm doing C level searches, helping these companies. Like, go reach out to all the founders of our portfolio and, you know, use my name or whatever he said to me. And that's what
Oh,
I kind of
wow.
stepped back from building this relationships with the VCs because I thought that would be my like business development channel,
Okay.
and just started focusing on, doing what I was
All the
doing, building
founders.
up my portfolio, working with founders.
Huh.
And that was going great. I pivoted from doing this professional services stuff, which is now customer success and customer experience, to product management because SaaS happened. And no longer did you need an army of people to go implement software. It was,
Yep.
hey, this is, going to be ASP at the time, then became SaaS and cloud. So I started noticing all the people I was working with were pivoting their careers to product management. And I was like, wait, what's this product management thing? So that's when I
Interesting.
got involved in product management recruitment, probably 2006 or something.
Hmm.
2009 happens with the financial crisis,
Yep.
and there was no search work. It was Sequoia's deck of RIP Good Times happens. So everybody was like
Oh,
freaking out.
wow.
It was
Wow.
all, Wall Street was a mess. Housing, everything was a mess. So I had the idea for VentureFizz probably the year prior, so probably 2008. And my wife and I were on vacation, just brainstorming a little bit. We met at a recruiting firm together. So
Oh,
he's
cool.
kind of knows the industry. And I'm like, I think there should be like a website that has information for people in Boston of what events you should go to, because I would, track all what was going on, who's hiring, and who raised venture capital funding. So I,
Hmm.
kept tabs on this information. I guess before even VentureFizz, because you asked me do you have what this looks like? So I
Yeah.
do.
I want to see it for
Let me
sure.
see if I can. So version one was actually a blogger site that
Oh, wow.
started. When did this start? I forget when this actually started, but I would just basically copy and paste any funding press releases into this blogger, and it was just like Northeast venture capital funding and M&A activity, and it started to get like SEO credibility, and like people would subscribe to this, and I'm like, huh. I was using it as my own like research because I was just like, who raised capital? They're hiring. Go reach out to
Yeah.
the founder. It was
Yeah.
like a no-brainer. But all of a sudden, people would like sign up and get the daily feed, and it was
Oh,
powered by Feed
wow.
Blitz, which was hysterical. And then I had my recruiting firm in here as kind of like, I guess, a promotion. But then 2009 happens, and I was like, okay, what if I make this into more of a website? There was nothing out there at the time.
Okay.
So I think I went on Craigslist and found a Droop, like a web developer. And I talked to the
Craigslist.
guy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he was like, "Well, we'll just build this on Drupal." And I'm like, I didn't know the difference between Drupal or WordPress, so I just was like, "Okay." So
Yeah.
he built out, I guess what at the time was called an MVP,
Hmm.
and I looked at it. I'm like, "Okay, I can kind of see what's going on." Now, I didn't have any search work, so I was just like, "This is something to keep me occupied." And then I launched it, and this was what it
Oh,
looked like,
wow.
which, like, when I look at this
Yeah.
now, it's not too far off from what it still is, and it's gone through cycles, but it's almost coming full circle back to this. It cracks me up. So there's always a job board. I would list any company. It was all the deal flow of who raised capital. It was pulling in news from, at the time, Economy, the Boston Globe, like Scott Kirshner.
That's right.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh my
There's
gosh. Blast from the
so,
past.
and then blogs was any of the VCs or founders that were blogging, and they probably had their shingles somewhere on Blogger or WordPress or something.
Yep.
I was pulling in an RSS feed of all their, most recent posts.
Oh,
So
no
there was
way.
no like, yeah, there was no like content, like words. It was just like a headline that you could
Okay.
click through. And
It's
Twitter
like
was
Tumblr.
relatively
Yeah.
new. So I had to have Twitter because I was like, oh, gotta have Twitter. That was like the hot thing.
Yep.
And then we had a networking calendar that actually was really popular back in the day. But so I launch it, and like I literally wrote this post about a year ago because we re-platformed to WordPress and I redid everything. So I'm like,
Hmm.
let's do like a historical look back on VentureFizz. And the first day I launched this thing, I just remember like it was hooked up to PayPal, and it always generated revenue. So it was like there was a job board, $50 for a job post, and this
Oh,
guy
wow.
Joe Goss from Novell posted a job, and I was just like, oh my god, somebody just posted a job. I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, this is insane. Someone actually just did this thing. Because I
That's
don't think there was
awesome.
any jobs on there. So thank you, Joe. And then Scott Kirshner was super nice to write this post on his innovation economy, which was tied to
Oh, yeah.
Boston.com,
Yeah.
where he wrote this. nice post. So that kind of gave me some credibility. And oh yeah, mass high tech was a thing back then. So that,
Amazing.
yeah, so that's kind of what got me started. And then it, looked like this afterwards, where I finally got into doing content by syndicating
Oh yeah.
the VCs, and like, here's Rob Go back in the day. That's young Rob
Wow.
Go. And,
Wow.
it's like Nathan Burke, who's now the CMO of 7AI.
See,
It's
he was
actually a
writing
post
for
he
you.
wrote for me. Yeah, he was doing
Wow.
it as a side hustle. That's
Huh.
actually hysterical. Dan Ketcher, who's still doing Rocket Farm. Yeah,
Amazing.
and Michael Greeley's no longer at Flybridge. He's got his own firm. So yeah, so
Yeah.
all these people were blogging, and I reached out to all these people and just said, hey, because it wasn't really deeply involved of SEO value at that point in time. It was more about vacation and eyeballs. So I would
Mhm.
go to Rob and be like, hey, Rob, I'm running this thing called VentureFizz now, and would love to republish, syndicate your content on VentureFizz, because I would literally just copy and paste, and everyone's like, absolutely, I just want more
So cool.
people to see my content, and that's how I started getting into content, and eventually evolved into doing all original content, but those
Mm-hmm.
single job listings, and I also paid for it through sponsorships. So Foley Hoag, the law firm, Dissero was my website, or my recruiting firm. UTES, which is now Applause, was a early backer. Akamai and General Catalyst, they all
Wow.
paid to have their, yeah. And, obviously I don't think they got a lot of lead gen from me, but it was more like showing
There's-
support for the Boston tech ecosystem back then. So
Yeah.
2009.
Yeah.
So,
That's so cool. So cool to see the founding pieces of it. And what's impressive, like just to reach out to these guys and say, hey, I'm Keith, or maybe you already knew them, but like to say, "Hey,
I
here's an
didn't.
opportunity." Yeah. So
I
like,
did.
I think that's such a great story. Like if you're, I mean, for people listening, like to me, the opportunity, that's the hustle, right? Like that's the, hey, I'm going to make this happen. So, because so many people are like, well, why would they answer my email? Or, you know, why would they reach out? The cold email,
Yeah,
it
don't
doesn't
be
work.
afraid.
Don't be afraid. Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. And just to start, just do it, right? It's never going to be perfect ever.
But
And
the
now I
irony,
mean, you're still iterating, I'm sure.
a total constant iteration, but the
Yeah.
irony of what happened, the search work, when I told the Larry Bond story of, hey, you're not on the radar, I continued to move up the ladder to more, VP, C level, or
Mm-hmm.
first strategic hire type of placement. All of a sudden, all the VCs, I knew them through VentureFizz. So I was like, hey, by the way, I do product management recruitment. And, Rob Go, is either Rob Go or Eric Paley introduced me,
It's awesome.
Whoop. And
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, in the early days, and I didn't, so it was a great search. So I met with Will. We talked all about his product, and I was looking at this Whoop band. And he was telling me all about how he played
I've,
squash at
I've got,
Harvard and
I
came
wear
across
one
this
every
idea,
day.
and how he was working with LeBron James trainer and this whole story. I'm like, this is amazing, right? And so would get these intros to founders through their investors. So my
Mm-hmm.
original plan of working through the VC channel ended up happening because of being helpful, useful, building community, and this site called VentureFizz, where that was all my business was.
Yeah.
Founder reached out, was like, hey, I just heard from you, my investors, that I need to hire our first product person, or we're scaling, we need to hire a VP now. And I was never like in a competitive bid for these searches, because if they're getting referred to me by the board, it means they've vetted me, and it's a good use of their
Sure.
time.
Right, right, and this is also happening with your LinkedIn at the time, right? You're
True.
building up your personal brand on LinkedIn, and you're going in real life, and you're connecting with all these VCs, providing value up front before you're asking really anything. At what point did it become a business in your mind? Like it kind of kicked off as a side
Uh-huh.
hustle, or hobby.
Yeah. So it was probably 2020, probably 15, 16, 17. I'd have to look at dates,
Okay.
but you
Okay.
could tell like
Wow.
this is a job board still, people posting individual jobs while I was doing search work.
Yeah.
And you have to post a lot of jobs for like $50 or whatever it was, $100 to make meaningful revenue to support the operation. But I was always putting the money back in. Like, I had different marketing people, I had, different writers at, different stages. But I finally settled on a subscription product, which is still core to what we do today. With,
Hmm.
hey, I'm going to put your company profile on VentureFizz, where it's like a LinkedIn company page. I'm going to pull in all your jobs through your applicant tracking system, and then we're going to do custom content of what it's like to work at your company.
So
So
cool.
yeah, so that was
It's awesome.
quarterly subscription. It was very affordable. So that scaled and continued to scale. And it was like, you get your first 20 customers. It's fear of missing out because talent acquisition professionals, recruiters would come to VentureFizz, see
Mm-hmm.
the other companies that are on there and be like, oh my God, why aren't we on here? Like, we need to be on here. So like I never did any outbound sales for VentureFizz for a really, really, really long time
That's
because it was
cool.
just word of mouth and organic interest.
That's awesome. So, I mean, was that 8 years? If I'm doing the math right, roughly 8 years of kind of unpaid. I mean, not unpaid completely, but you're still doing your main job and you've got VentureFizz over here as a side hustle, right? Yeah. And
Yeah, it
then,
was a side hustle it
and
was
now
7, 8
it's,
years of side hustle. Yes, that's
so
correct.
you're still doing, are you doing recruiting,
I
like
was still
placements
doing
still?
Dissero recruiting. Yes.
Yeah. You're still doing
So it
that
was like
now.
this side project that continued to just grow
Yeah.
on its own merit while I was still doing the
Amazing.
search work. And then, once I kind of settled in on the subscription side of things, it got meaningful enough where I could step away from recruiting. And I was ready for a break from recruiting because it was probably like 20 years of doing search work. And I was just like, you're always on. Like you're like when
Mm.
you're on vacation, you're scheduling
Oh
interviews,
yeah.
following up
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
candidates. Like it's a 24/7 type of setup. So luckily I married a recruiter. She understood that, but it takes a lot. So when the VentureFizz subscription was growing, I was able to step away from recruiting for a breather, take a break. So,
It's cool.
yeah. So
So, I mean, you were doing it for so long. What kept you posting and what kept you doing it when there was really no evidence that it was going, like, I would imagine the first 4 or 5, 6 years,
mm.
you're like, you know, did you ever think it was going to be a real business on its own? And like, what kept you going?
What kept it going was marketing and branding because
Mm.
it was having access to the VCs as I talked about.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was like, oh, you run VentureFizz, like immediate, instant credibility, right? Like when I go to events and I wear the T-shirt still, it's like, oh, you run VentureFizz. Thank you. You helped me. Your podcast helped me get my job because I, listened to it and it prepared me to, really crush my interview.
So it gave you like
Um,
social capital and personal
yeah,
brand through the name of
through
VentureFizz.
VentureFizz. Because
Yeah.
Dissero, no one knew who Dissero was unless you were one of the people I was talking to for a job.
Yeah.
So it became this website that really had its hooks in the Boston tech ecosystem,
Yeah.
and people would subscribe to the weekly email. So every Monday they'd get my name in their email, and they still do today. So it was just like it was marketing and
But
community building, and instant
but
credibility for the search work.
right. It's kind of like you had your search work. I mean, if they weren't two separate companies, Dissero, I mean, if you just made Dissero a media company, that would have been the same thing,
Same
right?
thing, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So you had I'm pointing that out because I believe strongly that every company today, and I think it's been this way for a long time, probably since Red Bull, put a man almost on the moon kind of thing, but they've been at it for years. Like every company is a media company with a product attached to it, product or service. And I think that's how they have to operate in today's world. And I think you've done that, obviously, through your years, the building years of VentureFizz, and you still continue to compound with personal brand.
I'd like to say I did all this intentionally. It just organically happened because I thought it was useful. And
Oh
I was
yeah,
just like,
hindsight's 2020, but
yeah. And I just like the tech industry. I like Boston.
yeah,
So it's just like, it's all organic. Everything I do is just like, I think we need this. And if people start to pay attention to it, I continue to do it.
yeah.
If, if it was crickets, I would just be like, okay, let's not do that anymore, which I have. Like I had journalists that were doing the news of really early stage startups, and it just, people weren't interested in reading that content. So we,
Interesting.
backed away.
Was there ever a point where you almost quit VentureFizz, like just shut it down? Or
No.
was it was like, I'm going to do this no matter what?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there's lessons learned of, during COVID, I was like, well, why isn't VentureFizz anywhere? It could be, all these remote jobs. So I did
Mhm.
take a stab at launching in New York, launching remote anywhere. And, my biggest lesson learned from that was two things. One, VentureFizz, it's bootstrapped by me. It's a operation that does well, but it's very lean. So I've never felt like this was a venture fundable business or even angel seed capital. I don't have oodles of budget to do a massive expansion and hire somebody that's going to be like a city lead for Chicago Austin, LA, San Francisco, whatever major tech hub. So to do things properly, you have to like scale it to do
Mm-hmm.
something like that, which isn't how VentureFizz operates. And second, more importantly, it's people want localized content. And that's, when I started doing New York, I think there was some confusion of like, what, like, I don't care about this startup in New York. Not that there's anything wrong with the startup. It's just, I'm not going to find a job there. I want to learn about the companies that I can work with right in Boston or the suburbs. So I
Yeah.
just, was like, okay, I gotta, once COVID and the pandemic was over, I started to reel it back in after some
Okay.
some lessons learned. But you got to try and experiment to see, I
Yeah.
could have been the next LinkedIn of VentureFizz in every city or something, but you just learn a lot.
Why do you post? I mean, we said it earlier, how you post all the time, and your strategy for posting on LinkedIn is very like you're connecting, you're sharing other people's content. Like I think looking at your posts, just recent posts, like your day at Shark Ninja was one of the most like you're thanking people for their by name in the post, you're thanking them for their time, and it was one of the highest engagement posts you've had recently. I know that's you and that's what VentureFizz does, but why not have VentureFizz, the company page, do that? Like, why is it always, have you felt that it's important for your personal brand to be posting?
That's a good question. I think because I was early to LinkedIn, my
Mm.
followership has been larger. If I could hire someone, I would hire more of a social media, LinkedIn, and I think we should be doing stuff on, Instagram that we're not, but
Yeah.
we just don't have the bandwidth. But yeah, the venture company page should be doing more of its own posting. But because we get so much traction from my feed, what we lead with, and there are, I think Dave Gerhardt talks about this too. It's like people want to work with people. Like, do people really
100%.
care
Yeah.
about venture?
Yeah.
No, yes, I don't know. But do they want to hopefully work with me? I hope so. And that's where I think your own personal feed and all your employees and all founders, they lean in on their own personal journey and experiences. So, and I just always like Mike Troiano at G20 Ventures. He's got a great comment. Just like, be useful. And I think he has a whole
Yeah.
blog post about it.
Yeah.
And that's like, I try to be useful and, I believe in karma. I believe like you give to get. I teach my kids that. And it's,
So
I just
good.
try to be useful. And I did, I think it was during Boston Tech Week, which again, another momentum builder in Boston. That thing was freaking awesome. We need more Boston Tech Weeks. And I was so excited
Yeah.
that Andreessen Horowitz brought that to Boston. But I think I had a moment where I'm like, I probably should talk more about me being a recruiter again. So about 2 years ago, I got back into recruitment. I realized my customers were looking for help because it's a challenge out there, and I feel
Mm.
bad for employers and job seekers because AI has had lots of benefit, but
Oh,
it's also
yeah.
caused some headaches when it comes to finding a job because of the volume of applies that come to a job. So if you're a talent acquisition professional, you post a job, you get 1,000 applies. You
Yeah.
can't go through 1,000 applies.
No.
So I'm like, so how are you finding your people? And they're like, well, employee referrals, our own direct sourcing because they can control who they're talking to by reaching out through LinkedIn or wherever,
Mhm.
and search firms. And I'm like, so you're looking for assistance from, someone who's well networked. They're like, absolutely, ends up saving us time and money. So that's when 2 years ago I got
100%.
back into doing search work. And I was just like, I had never, like, I was doing it more opportunistic.
Yeah.
And I was like, I probably should talk about this. So I actually launched it on VentureFizz where, hey, VentureFizz search. And everything's all under the VentureFizz umbrella now. Like Dissero is domain that I own, but there's nothing to do
Yeah.
with
It's
Dissero. It's
probably
all under the umbrella. So
very, yeah. I think that's smart. And I asked that because I think, I would agree with Dave Gerhardt on, his founder led marketing push. And
he's amazing.
yeah, I've watched him for a while. I think he puts out great content, but you know, the founder led piece is real. And you want what you just said. You want to buy from people you know, like, and trust. That's why in real life, like these events, like it works. It's awesome. But I would just marvel at how you do it because a lot of people, it's just like your posts land and you have, you don't, you've said it earlier in the show, like you don't have hundreds of thousands of followers. You have 20,000 really deep connections. It seems like that serve you incredibly well. Have you ever felt like you need to go bigger, 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 or is it quality over quantity?
All about quality. Yeah,
Yeah.
1,000%. Because I I guess I dabbled my toes in quantity with trying to go remote anywhere and expanding to New York.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
just
yeah.
realized, I'm so well networked in Boston. I know it like the back of my hand. I know the history, I know the current. And that's my superpower is just being a champion of the Boston tech ecosystem. And
It's awesome.
yeah, so I care about the quality over the
Y-
quantity 1,000%.
You're very, you remind me of, so I was early connector. So Mayor Manip, that this is years ago, like
Mhm.
2009, maybe I want to
Sure.
say, but like he started the Boston World Partnerships organization and we had connectors. And so I was one of the early connectors. And the entire point was just to bring value to other people and connect one another. And therefore if you did that, right, the entire ecosystem would grow and bring companies into Boston. And that was the mission at that point. And the way you talk, the way that like, I can tell it's really part of your who you are. And I think that's probably why you're so successful. It's just,
Yeah,
it's,
just how
it's
I'm
that,
wired. I don't know. It's just
yeah,
it's like
it's
that. And it's
awesome. No, it's so cool. That the give to get thing, that's, a lot of people have said it different ways, but
well, there's
it's
two books
real.
that
Yeah.
so but it's the presence is just get out there and meet people and
Yeah.
build your network and have meaningful conversations. And that's what again, I the good news, bad news for my kids is they're getting fed all this content too, because I'm like, you got to read these books
Mm.
and you need to be out there networking, because one just graduated from college, the other one is a rising junior, and they've had
Okay.
internships, and one's entering the workforce. And how did they get their jobs? Through networking. And like that's what you need to do in personal branding, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to be out there and be visible.
You're basically selling personal branding for companies in a way.
Yes, 1,000%.
Well, what's the difference between a company with a real employer brand and one that just has a careers page?
It's night and day for many reasons.
Yeah.
I always like to kind of go back through some companies that people know that they can relate to of why having an employment brand matters. HubSpot. Early days of HubSpot, I would be talking to people. I'm like, oh, where else are you interviewing? They'd be like, oh, I'm interviewing at HubSpot. And I'm like, why are all these people interviewing at HubSpot? They're like, it looks like a really, really cool place to work. They did this video flash mob at, the Cambridge Side Galleria Mall. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you know what HubSpot does? And they're like, it looks like a great culture and great people. And, eventually people know what HubSpot does now, but early innings of HubSpot, people had no idea this was a marketing, blogging, first generation platform of what they were. And I
Yeah.
remember running into Dharma Shah at like an event in Boston, just being like, kudos to you and your team for building just a place where people are like crawling hand over fist to work at your company because one, they
So important.
hired great people. Two, they created a buzz. The employees were talking about it on LinkedIn or Twitter at the time. Like it was just like infectious. They created fun videos. They had they believed in podcasts so early.
Oh
They
yeah.
had their
Yeah.
own podcast back in the day. Do you remember that? So obviously great history and the
Yeah. Yeah.
anchor tech
Yeah.
company in
They do it.
Boston.
They've done it really well.
And then Drift did the same thing. And going back to Dave Gerhardt, like all the him and David Cancel like were like the employees of Drift were all over LinkedIn. Anytime I published a piece of content for them, I just knew I could kick back because Drift would crush the social shares. And it just was people were like, I gotta go work at Drift. I gotta work
Oh,
at Drift.
wow. Wow.
So it's if you don't have a brand out there, you don't know the people that you're not creating a buzz, you're just flying under the radar. The other important thing that matters today
Mhm.
is AEO, answer engine optimization. So the
Mhm.
way a job seeker is doing their job search now is completely different. They are spending all their time in ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini typing, what's it like working at this company?
Yeah.
What's the leadership team like? Opportunities for career advancement. I'm interviewing. What do I
Yeah.
need to be? It's a dialogue. So answer engine optimization is obviously having the answers to those questions. So those platforms are going to pull from the company's website, their careers page, but they're also going to look for other sources, not just direct from the company. So they're going to go to
Of
LinkedIn,
course.
VentureFizz. So all the content we're creating now, and we just started noticing this
Oh,
like a
smart.
year ago, is feeding what these
Yeah.
LLMs are starving for. It's answers to questions that are direct hit, meaningful content. So companies that are
100%.
not doing content, they're just like letting other powers that be control the narrative.
Yeah, I've always said that your marketing department, it's like, yes, it's external, but 50% of it should be internal as well, because your employees are going to be telling all their friends about what you do. It's word of mouth. It's fantastic. And, you can hire better people, better quality, retention's higher over the time. Just, it's easier, it makes everything easier. So I can't agree
To
with
that point,
you more.
I started out, all my customers were talent acquisition professionals. They still are, but marketing is deeply involved in everything we do now. Sometimes they're
Mm-hmm.
the budget, they're the buyer, but
Oh, wow.
marketing, because it's
Interesting.
brand, it's messaging, it's hiring, so it definitely falls under marketing for a large extent. Not every company, but a lot.
Who's doing it the best now? I mean, we mentioned HubSpot back in the day. Who do you think, like, couple names come top of mind?
I mean,
I know you know
Whoop,
everybody.
Whoop. I mean, Whoop is like out of control. I mean,
Yeah, they're
the
doing great.
fact that Will is building a company and having Ryan Durkin do the Mass AI Coalition. And I forget what they said they needed to hire this year. It's like hundreds of people. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And he has Ryan, like what this has done for the company, like all these pictures on LinkedIn on their roof deck, and like the
Yes. Yeah.
governors at Whoop, and
Yep. Yep.
like it's just like they are in a constant flow of really powerful messaging. Will is a great, his stuff on LinkedIn's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The whole company's fantastic, and they've built such a brand, and that translates into their employment brand so well because they are on it. The team there is just really, really good.
But no doubt.
So
Yeah. What do you have a stance on when the company should be founder led, like what Will's doing, for example, versus when it shouldn't be?
I don't, unless the founder's no longer there, it should always be founder led, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like the
Okay.
founder should have the point of view that people can follow and really lean in on, and like the founder's the grassroots of the company, so no one should ever like relieve that person of those responsibilities, nor should the founder think they should step away from those responsibilities. That's like core to hiring, sales, driving strategy and direction of the company, success, engagement. So they all play off of each other.
I could talk to you for hours, Keith.
Same. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, because I want to be respectful of your time. So I've got two questions, and we'll roll into the rapid fire. When your podcast, the VentureFizz show podcast, 430, what was the count now? 437?
437.
437 is amazing. First question is, is when you've interviewed more founders than I've probably forgotten, so many people. What, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, what is the one thing that comes through usually? Like, you've just had so much experience. Do you follow a script? Do you just listen to them and flow with it? What comes through in those first few minutes?
So I guess like I kind of have a format, so it's kind of hard to kind of give you a good answer for this, because like what I appreciated what you did is you sent me an outline. Hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's the topics. It was just like, okay, cool. I know what we're going to talk about. And I get replies from founders all the time, because one of my favorite things is going deep and learning about this person, especially if they've been on other podcasts, to prepare me for this conversation. And I send over the notes, and it's more of an outline. I guess I was like, maybe I should do more of what you do, just summarize it so it's probably easier to read. But I'm providing like a full outline of all these nooks and crannies. And they're like, wow, you did your homework. I'm excited for this. This is going to be a great conversation. And I guess there's other podcasters that don't do that. I'm like, how's that possible? So they kind of already know the flow of the conversation, which I always start off with some attention grabber that they probably know something about. Not necessarily a hot take, but it's like, I could tell they feel deeply about this topic about fundraising, or, so there's something to bring the audience in immediately.
Yep.
And then we go through the person's background, their professional journey, what they're working on now, then some general advice questions.
Okay.
So it's kind of like I have my own like kind of format of,
It's
I
like a
always
rhythm.
liked, yeah. And it's like Guy Raz with how I built this, like my own flavor of that.
That's cool.
Of,
That's a great show
telling
too.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
You've
your
had some
second
awesome
question
people on.
was,
My second question was, what has the podcast done for you and your business that, the website or just posting to social on LinkedIn couldn't do?
there's probably three things. One, access to people. Like I tell people, if you want to access, start a podcast. And, it's going to take a little bit to kind of, but, shoot high because you want to get the best guest that's going to translate into getting the other great guest because they see, oh, you had so-and-so. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So access to people, which is amazing. I learn so much from every episode. It's like, oh, which ones are your favorite episodes? I'm like, all of them, because there's always something. But I especially like the stories of kind of the tech companies from before that, that maybe the stories haven't been told. Like an episode that's coming up in a few weeks is the founder of Harmonix. Harmonix was the
Oh yeah,
creator of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, right? So Aaron
great games.
Agozi is on the podcast, and he's an MIT professor now. But
Wow.
it was a 10-year journey for him to get to the point of product market fit. Like they had little points of
Yeah,
just kind of, but not
the 10-year overnight success.
the 10-year overnight success. I love those stories. And it's like, do people know that Guitar Hero and Rock Band originated in Boston and there's a whole story behind it? Like, no,
No,
there's like, so I love telling those stories. But each episode, I learned so much. So it's, access to people. It's, just what I get to learn about it. But the third piece that I feel like I could be doing a better job at is
Mm.
promoting VentureFizz and the podcast. So that's something that I need to do a better job. Because if I have 430 episodes out there and people don't know they exist, then I'm failing. And if there's this momentum shift of people wanting to celebrate the Boston tech ecosystem, well, I really should be leaning in and
Yeah,
making sure that these stories are told or, the archives are available. Because it's like I've got early stories of, Klaviyo, iRobot, and Drift, and Drizzly, and Deca. Steve Papa was on, and
yeah. No,
like
you're
Simply Safe, like I go on and on. So it's
clearly a wealth of information. I
a
mean, yes,
wealth.
yeah. You need to be on this side of this side of the desk being interviewed more often, I think.
It's a lot to talk about. I do enjoy it, so it's fun.
All right, rapid fire. You can pass just quick 1 words, 2 word sentences, just quick. Boston Tech in one word.
On fire, like fire. Let's just say
Yes.
fire. Momentum, fire. So
All right, most overrated branding advice. That could be, you can take it however you want. That can be personal brand, that can be company brand.
like just because people are like, during the Boston Tech Week, there was like a event that was just like, Boston needs to like brand themselves. And I'm just like, nope, nope. Like it's just like the whole narrative of
Yeah.
trying to chase after and be better than San Francisco or New York. And yeah, hubs. I mean, Facebook left and all these like Y Combinator were started out in Cambridge. Like all these things, like
Hmm.
it's like there's just focus on the good things that have come out of Boston versus worrying about what other ecosystems are doing. And let's keep telling these stories. So it's more of like the Boston ecosystem brand, not, not doing your own branding right, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, cool. If you were to start over again, how would you do it?
If I'd start all over again, how would I do it?
Would you start with the
I
podcast
would,
now? Would you
no, like I
LinkedIn
think how it all
again?
happened, it was organic. I just,
Okay.
I would lean more on content creation for the platforms because that's just another missed opportunity for me. And as soon as I can
Okay.
hire a social media person, and it's hard to do social, right? I've dabbled with people in the past,
Yeah.
but I think there's
Oh, there's
each
a science.
year well, and I use Riverside for my podcast, and as soon as I am done the episode with the guest, it spits out magic clips. It's like,
Oh yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, these are all good, but it's gonna take me still like 10 minutes to polish it or add captions. Then it's like 20 minutes, and then I got to post it, put it on Instagram, put it on LinkedIn. So I don't do that, and I should. There's so much great things in these stories that should be clips that would do well. So having a better social media person that is in the weeds of all this would be something I wish and need to lean more into.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Well, again, could have talked to you for another hour. Keith, it's been awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much. Where can people sign up? I know you have a newsletter. Is it venturefizz.com where they can go?
Yeah, VentureFizz.com. You'll see somewhere where there's, sign up for our email newsletter.
Okay.
The
Cool.
podcast, obviously on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple, and YouTube. So, so follow the good stories and spread the word. Like the more that these stories are heard, like I'm not trying to be self-serving and promote my podcast. It's more of letting the other people in Boston know that these stories are out there and there's so many lessons learned. And like every episode, I'm just like, oh my God, this founder is amazing, and people need to know more of their journey.
That's awesome. I love the work you're doing, man. Keep it up. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being on Return on Reputation.
Thank you, Justin.